G'day groovers, rockers and in between. This is Vinyl Vibes. I'm your host, Jack Hodgins. Today we are talking with drummer of Kahvas Jute, Dannie Davidson. Since 1967, Dannie had been playing with the iconic Oz rock band, Tamam Shud. In 1970, Dannie left Tamam Shud after the recording of their second album, The Goolutionites and The Real People. Dannie was soon requested by promoter Peter Cunningham to form a new group, and thus Kahvas Jute was formed in mid-1970. The band began writing music immediately and recorded their debut album, Wide Open, shortly after forming. After touring throughout Australia, in June 1971, the band made the ambitious move to the UK. While in the UK, the band came to the attention of EG Management, which represented artists such as T-Rex and Roxy Music. However, the band was signed to Festival Records at the time and was bound by the contract. Although EG Management offered Festival Records $50,000 to release the band from the contract, the festival label declined. The band was shattered and broke up soon after. In 1973, Kahvas Jute reformed after returning to Australia, but would again be disbanded by the year after. After his time with Kahvas Jute, Dannie stayed in music, joining Band of Light soon after. G'day Dannie, and welcome to Vinyl Vibes.
Thank you for having me again.
and thanks for making the time to come in again. I guess last time when we spoke a lot about the Shud and last time, and I guess I wanted to kind of take off where we kind of left off. Like you left the Shud after recording the Goolutionites and the Real People, and then you soon formed Kahvas Jute. So I mean, kind of take me through like the last few days, like the last kind of moments in the Shud to like that formation of Kahvas Jute.
I did my last show with Tamam Shud at the Dallas Brooks Hall in Melbourne, doing the Evolution, playing the movie and playing underneath. I think we did 3 shows there, all sold out. I really didn't know what to do with myself. Anyway, I got a phone call from Maureen saying that the agent, Peter Cunningham, wants to see me in his office when I get back from Melbourne. Anyway, so Maureen picked me up at the airport, at Sydney Airport, took me to Ashfield where the Nova agency was, and a guy there was 2 agents there. Peter Cunningham run the place, and there was John Sinclair, and he had a brother called David Sinclair who was the A&R manager or whatever of festival, whatever they call them, and they were starting a new label called Infinity, and it was going to be a progressive rock album, rock label,
yep,
attached to festival. Anyway, they said to me that would I form a band and record on the
Infinity
new label?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't have a band, haven't really thought about it or anything like that. And they said, look, we think we've got a couple of blokes that might be interested in coming in with you. And I said, oh, yeah, who are they? And he said, oh, Dennis Wilson and Bob Daisley, and they play in a band called Mecca. I sort of had heard of them. They were a cover band. They did a lot of support work and all that, and, good musicians and all that. I mean, great. Anyway, I said, oh, all right, okay. So they arranged a couple of days later for me to come back and meet them. So anyway, I went over to Dennis' place, took my drum kit, went to his house at Arncliffe, and Bob turned up. I set my drums up in the lounge room and we sort of talked. I had sort of met him briefly. They had been supports for Tamam Shud quite a few times. And they were a couple of years younger than me, not much, I think maybe 3 or 4 years younger than me. I said, look, 2 things you've got to know. It's got to be all original material, and it's got to be free-flowing, and I'm going to England in a year's time. They said, that's fine. So anyway, he brought out this little book. Bob said to him, come on, Dennis, you've got heaps of songs in there. Show Danny. Because Bob was pretty abrupt and everything with Dennis. They were funny like duo. They've been together a while. Anyway, so Dennis brought out this book and the first song was free. And of course I just went boom, boom, da, and the beat came up. Blap. That nice flam there just fell in beautifully.
Yeah.
And of course the wonderful guitar playing that Dennis does. He was just such a good player. I mean, like that was to me that I'd moved. I've taken a step up. Here I was with this great guitar player, and he was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
He was as good as Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton and George Harrison, all of them.
Yeah.
He was as good as them. I fell in love with him straight away. I did. This is my man, And Bob's bass playing was phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, he was like Jack Bruce. Not that I wanted Jack Bruce, but he had that 3/4 bass and lovely precise. He was that bass player that I was looking for that I didn't get out of Peter. Even though it all worked in Tamam Shud, because we all moved around and he was probably the right bass player. But I missed Eric. Eric was that sort of bass player, the original bass player with the Four Strangers. He was that sort of bass player.
Yeah.
Very technically well, played with his fingers. Bob was different. Bob had the 3/4, played with a pick, just had this way about him, and he's lovely, precise, beautiful notes. And I thought, this is it, this is fabulous. We had a unique sound. It was a blend of that English riffy type thing, and then the freedom of the rhythm section ended up being more that free, open playing, Anyway, we started working on all the songs, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call from Tim Gaze. He says, "Oh, Lindsay's not treating me well. He's terrible. He's doing this to me. He's doing that." Because when we were touring with Tamam Shud with Tim always stayed with me in the rooms. Like he latched on to me.
Yeah.
Lindsay, even though he got him, didn't have much to do with him. Lindsay and Peter, they were like stuck over here. They were real elitists, become real elitist like. So Tim drew me up. And then I said to Dennis and Bob, I said, "Look, he's not a bad player and he's a nice young bloke." I said, "Maybe we can try this twin guitar thing like Thin Lizzy does." So, that twin guitar stuff with the two wonderful lead guitar players. I said, "Maybe we can try that. That hasn't been done here. And we can still have our freedom, do your solos and all that." And they agreed to it. Tim came on board and he came over the rehearsals and he started playing and it all seemed to go quite well. Anyway, so we're straight in. We hadn't even done a gig. So we're straight into the studio. This is 4 weeks later. And we hadn't even done a gig. And yet we were going to do a recording.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of in itself.
Yes.
That's how much faith they put in us.
The Kahvas Jute name, how did that come about?
Well, I wanted a name similar to, like Tamam Shud, where people would say, "Oh, we're going to go and see the Shud." Like it was the Rolling Stones. Everyone said the Stones.
Yeah.
Like you got a name, but then you were affectionately named by the other part of it. So, and I always wanted to call a band Jute, hemp and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what jute is made of.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we didn't want to be that blatant anyway. So Dennis had a book, Pear's Dictionary or something like that. Anyway, we're looking through it. There was Kahvas. Kahvas Jute. Oh, that sounds all right. And Kahvas meant a Turkish public servant. So we went, oh, there's like a bit of, do-do-do.
Yeah.
So that's how we met. But we changed the spelling to K-A-H, as you say it, Kahvas Jute. But anyway, so we get into the studio. Dennis, I've gone in and signed up. Another thing I didn't take any notes of my wife. She said, "Get a solicitor to look at everything." I said, "No, it's just festival. It's an Australian contract. Well, I'm assured it's only for Australia, so if we go to England, we'll be right." So I signed the festival contract, which bound me for 4 years. Oh, God. Didn't take any notes of my wife again. So I'll tell you the story about that later.
Yeah.
The consequences of me signing that contract.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we go into the studio. Pat Alton is the doing what you're doing, but with records.
Yeah, producer.
Yeah. Fabulous man, fabulous director. Anyway, great sound, 4-track recording desk. That's all it was.
Yeah.
There was bits of matchstick stuck in it so it wouldn't rattle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how. But the studio was the festival studio, which I'd done lots of stuff before with the Four Strangers. Most of the albums in the first and second take, third take maybe. Vocals were sort of added a bit later. Anyway, so we've gone through the whole thing and we get to Parade of Fools. Now, Parade of Fools is the last song on the album. When I was younger, all that stuff. Great song.
Yeah.
But it's all free music. That's except for that little bit, the initial song, which is not very long. It's all free music, ad-lib music, jamming.
Yeah.
But anyway, one take that was. So it was written on the spot. I mean, there was an initial guide to it and then we just blew and whatever happened, happened. But anyway, the album got released. I think there was a number of other records. I showed you Black Feather. I think there was Ray Brown was on that limo. I think Billy Thorpe was. I can't remember any more. Anyway, they all got sort of released with a big promo and everything for this new label, and they all got sent out to the shops. There was 10,000 printed, which is the normal run. And they were only in the shops a week and a half. And they sold 3,500 copies. Then all of a sudden they got all recalled.
Yeah.
All the albums got recalled. because there was a vinyl shortage, there was an oil shortage in the world in 1971 or 70 when it got released. So Festival couldn't get any raw materials to make vinyls because they were releasing overseas albums. Called it all in, melted them all down so they can play the overseas stuff, which is outrageous. I mean, really, when you think of it.
Yeah, yeah.
How did, and Festival was always known as someone supporting local artists, yet in this instance they cut us adrift. And that's why the album's worth a lot of money. If you can get a copy of the album, it's quite a lot of money. There's only 3,500 ever released to the public. Dennis and Bob knew a bloke called Clive, who was the sound mixer of Led Zeppelin, who used to sing for them. And they sent the album to England, to Clive, a copy, and he played it to Jimmy Page and all them, and they loved it. And they did the American tour that year, and they played our album before they went on over the big speakers. They loved the band. They thought it was terrific. When I got to England, I spoke to Jimmy Page on the phone.
Yeah.
Clive took us up to his farm, and we dropped into Robert Plant's house, but he wasn't at home, and I missed meeting John Bonham by about 5 minutes, which was a shame.
It's insane that too, because I mean, as you kind of mentioned there, you guys went into the studio before you did any gigs. I mean, so when you were kind of working on songs as a band, did you kind of jam on them first as like a group and then kind of work them out, or like what was the process?
Well, I had a couple of songs that I wanted to do with Tamam Shud that I had, but of course I can't play a musical instrument. I just sung them. I sung one of my songs to Dennis, and he worked on that. And the other one, Tim worked on with me. So that was it called Up There and
Steps of Time. Yeah.
So really Up There I wrote and I did all the arrangement, So you can see that the Steps of Time, one of my influences on that was Jethro Tull, believe it or not, in the way they did things. That was my little take on Jethro Tull, even though we didn't use the flute or anything.
Yeah.
But that arrangement, that thinking. Up There was just a free sort of flowing song, and that's how I did that one, a little protest song about how things are. The other one was an imaginary thing,
Yeah.
When we were working on Dennis's song, he pretty well had everything there. The only thing that had to be put to it was the drums. And at no stage did he say, play this or play that. No, I didn't really say to anyone. No one said to anyone, "Oh, don't do that, do this." We were left with our own devices, and we trusted what the other person was going. Just straight out, it was like that, right from the word go. There was no, "I don't play that, play this," like you get in some bands.
Yeah.
I don't like you doing that. Do it this way. And all of a sudden there's these tensions arising, But with the Kahvas Jute thing, that didn't happen. Same with Tamam Shud and all that. No one turned around and said, "Oh, don't do that. Do it this way. Do it my way." No, you were left. The trust was there musically that you will do the right thing by that song and play your thing into it. And that's how you get a unique sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the bands weren't Dennis Wilson's backing band or Lindsay Beer's backing band. We were a band of musicians with equality in the music and trust. And that was the foundation of it.
Yeah, well, I think what you mentioned there with your own songs that you wrote for the album, Steps of Time and Up There, I think that's a very interesting writing process. So did you start off writing the lyrics and then work out the melody and then sing it to the guys? Like, what was...
I'd hum it. Have you ever heard me hum? It was quite an ordeal for them. But they came across good. I mean, we're all young, and it was an instant love affair. There's no doubt about it. It was wonderful. So they were very patient. But at the same time, I was that with their music, so one run through virtually, that's all we needed, and we were there.
Tim, when he joined the twin guitar stuff, you were kind of mentioning that dynamic. How did that change how the band kind of collaborated, like having that extra dynamic kind of twin guitar thing going on? Like,
well, in some way, it's good on the album. Let's face it, it was great on the album. And both Tim's a good guitar player too, but he didn't have that depth of playing. He was more shrill and 100 notes to the minute sort of thing player. He was young and he was, did it all over the place, There's nothing wrong with that too. I mean, but live, when we finally did play live, it didn't work so well live, I didn't think. It was too contrived. It pushed us into not being able to move where we wanted to live. So if it was a 5 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute number, we could stretch that to 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Which we did.
Yeah.
We do extended solos in them and things like that. Well, you couldn't really do that because everyone had their little part to play, We were sort of becoming corralled. But, of course, we only done about, 4 or 5 jobs with Tim live. That was it, and he was gone. When the album came out and we play it, Dennis rings me up, most upset, Dennis and Bob. You got to get rid of Tim out of the band. Why? I said, why? What's wrong? He said, he stole my riff and put it in the solo. I showed him a riff of a song and he put it into the solo. So you brought him into the band, you get him out of the band. I hate this sort of business.
Yeah.
I just want to play music, Anyway, so I had to ring Tim up and told him. Then his father sends me demands for long service leave and holiday pay and, oh, my God, it was just a nightmare. But anyway, we kept going as a 3-piece, which was better, should have been in the first place. Well, the next big struggle we had was Peter Cunningham wanted the royalties of the album. Says, look, I got yous all together, so I should have a cut of the album sales. And we said, hold on a moment, you're only a theatrical agent, you're not our manager or anything, you did it for your own. So you could sell us live to all the clubs and whatever. Yeah. I mean, you get your money out of it because there's not much money in albums,
Yeah.
Not really. I've never been paid any decent money, a couple $100 or something, ridiculous. Anyway, so there was a big fight. And he said, well, that's it. I'm not going to book you anywhere because we'd already been playing. By this time, Tim had left the band and we were playing at Caesar's Place and all these other, and doing well. I come home, see my wife. Oh, look, we've been blacklisted because we won't sign over our royalties to Peter Cunningham and all that. Maureen said, right. You're not going to get away with this. I said, what are we going to do? She said, well, I'll put on a show. I'll go and put on some shows. Oh, I said to her, how are you going to put on some shows,
Yeah.
She's a psychiatric nurse. I should have known. Callum Park. She deals with people like Cunningham every day of the week.
Yeah.
And me. So anyway, off she goes to Sydney Town Hall.
Yeah.
Goes to see the town clerk, walks in there, She was a gorgeous-looking creature with his long auburn hair, all tanned.
Yeah.
Surfing girl. Says, we want to hire Paddington Town Hall to put on a show. Oh, yeah. What security you got? She said, we haven't got anything. We're just poor musicians, but told them the story. And they said, right, you can have it. So I rung up the Upward Rug Band, Scott Maxey and Peter Barnes, and do you want to come in on this, And then I rung up my drum teacher, Derek Fairbrass, and he contacted Judy Bailey and a few of the other jazz guys. And so we're going to put on this concert at Paddington Town Hall. Can't promise you how much you're going to get paid, but no worries, they said. So we got Maureen arranged for the posters to get done. We went around in the middle of the night putting these posters up with the glue and everything and all around Balmain and Paddington and everything like that. Anyway, the night came. There was hundreds and hundreds there. They were lined up all the way down the hill to get in. We couldn't believe it. So it was just packed. How many? 1,000, 1,500 people there? It was just packed. They were out in the footpath and everywhere. So we kicked the show off. That went down well. And then Derek and they come and did their freeform jazz, bebop jazz. Oh, it was out of this world. What a drummer Derek Fairbrass was. He was my drum teacher and the best man at my wedding.
Wow.
But this man could play anything. And we introduced to all these university guys and everything another form of free-form jazz. Like apart from the rock thing and that progressiveness, we introduced where it all come from.
Yeah.
Bebop and jazz, free-form music. And all of a sudden, they were just spellbound by it all. And then, of course, an Upward Rug come on like a big family when they were singing and carrying on. So we had a wonderful night. And I remember at the end of the night, we had all this money like we'd never seen before. And we had all the musicians in there. Like we had this table out the back because Maureen was on the door and everything. We didn't have bouncers or anything like that. Yeah. So we had these poles. How much did we charge to get in? I can't remember now. $1 or something, $3 or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this pile of money. 4 musicians with Derek's mob. There was us 3, and I think there was about 6 with an upward rug or whatever. So we started the piles. We had a pile for each musician, and it get higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, and all this money. So we ended up, no one had ever been paid so well in all their lives. One musician was getting what a band would normally get on its own, you know.
Yeah.
And they loved it. We handed all this money out. But Maureen, being such a good manager, forgot to take the costs out the coster that she put up front with the posters and everything like that. And I think she paid a bit of a deposit for the hall and all that. Because I had no money. Maureen was, my wife, was supporting me in lots of ways, you know. She had the regular job. The next morning, Caesar's Palace is ringing up Nova Agency saying, why can't we get Kahvas Jute? Why won't you? What's going on? Why can't we get, you're sending us all these other bands no one wants to hear. Why can't we get the band we're asking for? Anyway, Peter Cunningham rings up. Danny, yes, Pete. Look, we have to put all our differences aside. We beat him. We beat the agent. How's that?
That's great.
How's that? A victory for musicians against agents. Peter Cunningham organised an Australian, East Coast and Adelaide and up Melbourne, up to Brisbane, university tour. But before we were about to do the tour, Bob wasn't around. Couldn't find Bob. Rang his home. No, not there. Mother wouldn't put him on the phone. He wouldn't. So we had to get Scott Maxey in at a moment's notice, and that's when Bob left the band. He just left the band. Yeah. No notice, no ringing up, no nothing. I don't know if he got frightened about going to England or doing the tour. It was a pretty extensive tour. So Scott Maxey came on board. No rehearsal, straight into the show. The band never looked back. It was fabulous. And so we did all the university things and we came back, and then we ended up going to Melbourne for a stint before we went to England to get some money. But Scott couldn't come with us. He was an American and he was escaping a certain thing. Anyway, so Dennis and I went over on our own to England, and that started our English chapter. Met up with Glenn Wheatley, who was the bass player for the Masters Apprentices, but he was starting to get into management there. We were actually the first band he ever managed.
Wow, yeah.
And he took us into Phil Joseph's office, who then something to do with this thing called the New Seekers, and he was the roadie or road manager or something with him. And so he brought us into that sort of thing. But they were middle of the road. And in England, everything's separated. You're either hard rock, you were jazz, or you were middle of the road, or you're pop. And never the twain meet. So if you're in a company that does certain things, that's all they do. They don't have a variety of things, you know. They don't need the market's so big that they can corner each little bit of it. Yep. I mean, we come from a society of 7 million in the 70s to like 45 million or something. Yeah. It was, you know, the population of London was the population of Australia in them days. Phil Joseph buys some. I got some drums from Colin Peterson, who was the drummer from the Bee Gees who'd left. So I went and got his drums. But Phil Joseph supplied Dennis, and we had a bass player, Mick. We got up a bloke called Mick Smith. I can't quite remember how he came to be. I think Dennis got playing in a little club or something, and I can't quite remember. But anyway, he was the bass player, and we got it a monthly, every Monday night for a month at the Speakeasy Club, which was one of the top clubs. That's where Hendrix was discovered.
Yes.
And the first night we played there was just unbelievable. In the audience was Cat Stevens, Ginger Baker, a couple of other blokes from Deep Purple, and there was a band called they had that song, Which Queen of New Orleans? I can't quite remember. There they were. And we started playing, and they came down and sat on the floor in front of us on the dance floor. The owner of the club didn't like that. He wanted everyone to dance. So anyway, they sort of said, look, you can't do this. You know, they can't be sitting down on the dance floor grooving out to what you're doing. They've got to stand up the back. So after that night, the next, of course, they had the dance floor free, and all these people came in to see us. But most importantly, 3 managers come to see us, and they were from EG Management. Now, EG Management had Roxy Music, King Crimson, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Mark Bolan.
Yep.
Few others, but that sort of progressive rock, and that's what they were after, right? Because they'd signed Roxy Music, but they knew it wouldn't do any good in America. And it's the American market they were after. So they were after bands that would do well, especially in the West Coast. And anyway, so they loved us. Anyway, so they said to us, we want to hear you again. So we've hired this big theatre out on the south bank of London where the Who rehearse and everyone. We get picked up by King Crimson's road manager or something in a Rolls Royce at our flat. So we all meet there, David O'List, myself and Dennis, and off we go to this theatre. We walk on stage, to plug in and everything, and there's just 3 people in the audience. And there's these 3 managers. Now, I can remember David Fenwick, Mark Unthoven, but I can never remember the third bloke. Anyway, we started free. Dun, dun, dun. Boom, boom, and off. We did about a third of the way through the song, and they jumped up. That's it. We'll see you back at the office. King Crimson's roadie said to us, this has never happened before. Start counting your millions, boys. We said, what are you talking about? He said, they obviously love you. We got in the car, left all the gear there. That was all taken back to Joe Marshall and everything. We go into this office. It's all plush maroon sort of, all around the office with all these gold albums, and there's this big desk with it's all, you've got to see it, like money oozing out of the walls. Anyway, they had our album and everything. We gave them our album, and they said, right, now what's your contractual arrangements? I said, well, we signed this contract for Australia. This is where I'm coming back to not taking notice of. We hand over our contract. There it's got, now you've got to remember this is 1971. We're thinking that we are an independent nation kind of thing, but we're really governed by the Privy Council and all its laws. So all the laws that are passed here and all the contracts that are signed here are actually valid in England, right? So we didn't know that. We thought Australia and its territory. We said, no, we signed the contracts for Australia and its territory, New Guinea and the Antarctic. No, boys, they said, this is a worldwide contract. We're going to try and get you out of it because we want you. You're perfect for the American market. We loved your new songs, Conquest and all that, and particularly a song I wrote, What's in It for You and Me. They ring Festival Records while we were there. And they're speaking to the legal department of Festival Records, Murdoch. Bloody Murdoch. They offered them, the end offer that I believe, that I understand to be, was they offered them $50,000 or pounds or dollars, I don't know what it was, and the rights under the equator. That's South America. Festival get that for free. We would send them the album, the covers, everything. They reproduce it, take total 100% profit off that album. They said no. So that stopped us in our tracks. Bang. That was it. Could go no further. I started to work in professional jobs around London. I did that for about over a year and a half, I suppose. We decided we'd come back to Australia and reform. So Dennis came back. We picked up with Scott again. Nova picked us up again, Peter Cunningham. And the first thing we get is a tour of the East Coast and Melbourne and things in Adelaide and all that, backing Bo Diddley. Bo Diddley come out. So the deal was that we were to back Bo Diddley and Jefferson John and us. So we kicked the show off. Jefferson John had come on. There'd be a break, and then the last half would be Bo Diddley. The funny thing with Bo Diddley, we never rehearsed. We first met him on stage at the Opera House before it was opened even. And we were set up, and he just walked out and he said in the key of C or G or whatever he does, and that was it. We never had a rehearsal, but the show was fabulous. It was a fabulous show. So we did the Hordern and we did Brisbane and we did Melbourne and we did Canberra, and we played it on this big barge at the opening of the Opera House. That was quite good. And then we did other festivals and things like that. So not being able to secure that thing in London was a big deflator for us. So we decided we'd move on our way. And I joined Band of Light, and Dennis formed a band, Chariot. So he did quite well with that band. They evidently worked like every day of the week for a year. I mean, they would, they just went for it. So I joined Band of Light with Phil Key and a bass player called Bill Williams. Now, Phil Key was the singer of the La-Di-Das.
Yeah.
He was a great singer. And what a person. He was a lovely man. Lovely man.
Yeah.
And we got on straight away. And fully original, of course. He wrote all these songs, completely different than the original Band of Light. And we were a three-piece. We went in the studio. And I just started using double bass kicks. I go into the studio and we're doing the stuff, and he didn't have the mic on this other bass drum, my left bass drum. So some of the things sound a bit disjointed. Anyway, I come off, and of course, Phil was paying for the album. It wasn't done through a studio, record company.
Yeah.
Been released through Warner Brothers, I think, but he had to come up front with it. He did get some money from them to do it, I think. Phil said, don't worry about it, Dan. It still sounds fine and all that. I said, it's not the point. It's my artistry, so to speak, and my reputation's on that, like.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't want it to be misrepresented. Don't worry. So I had a big argument with him, not with Phil, with the technician. You treated us like shit, they did in the days. So the album came out. I don't know how it sold and all that, because Bill and I got offered a job to join Ticket in New Zealand, of all places, because there was a regular job there for a place called The Base in Christchurch. I had a few little savings, and Maureen spent them all. We'd saved this money after getting back from England and just getting on our feet. And so next thing we're off to New Zealand.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Danny, for sharing more of your story with me. It's always a pleasure talking.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, it's more exciting that somebody's interested in all of this.
Yeah.
That's the real treasure in all of this for me.
That was Dannie Davidson, drummer of Kahvas Jute. Remember to share this show with other music fans, and if you really like what you heard today, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Vinyl Vibes, and to all you music lovers out there, stay groovy.